Hello, how are you guys doing? My name is Jeremiah Reed. I'm the author of Mental Wealth, and I'm bringing to you Financially Lit Week 3. I just want to thank you all for hopping on. I know some of you have been coming consistently, and I appreciate that. But just to get started, man, we're going to have a deep discussion today about love and money. A lot of these times, especially now more than ever, with people getting into relationships, not truly knowing where their partner is financially, it can be a very big hiccup in the relationship if the money is not right or the love is not right. So I wanted to bring in my brother and my friend Bernard Mickle. He's a marriage counselor. A marriage coach, and he's going to be sharing some insights on a couple different things today. Say what's up, BJ?
Hey, what's going on, guys? How's everybody? Hope everybody doing well on this sunny Saturday.
Yeah, we appreciate it. If you guys have any questions, please make sure you use the chat function. I'll be checking that throughout the time. But just to get kicked off, BJ, I wanted to just hop in and kind of ask you a question real quick, just to get this started. In the light of
Okay.
this financial crisis we're experiencing with COVID-19, how have your relationship with your spouse been impacted both financially and also emotionally?
Yes, great question. So, from a let's go from the emotional side of things first. So, COVID, for one, forces you to be at home with your family, as you see, especially being close quarters with your spouse. Usually, you're used to at least going to work and coming home, and looking forward to spending time with your spouse for a couple hours once you get the kids down, and then you leave off to bed, and then your day kind of starts the next day and does it all over again. And you look forward to the weekend, doing something with your family, maybe a date night, maybe a family date night as well. But now, date night is every day, you know. And so one of the things that can be difficult is connecting with your spouse when you see them all day, right? They're at work, you at work. Depending on what you do, you don't get as much time together. But depending on what you do, you can create time for each other. Similar to a lot of entrepreneurs, they're talking about how people can kind of revamp their days because they have the opportunity to do so. Same thing with your spouse. So my wife and I, we're actually been connecting a lot more, obviously on a good end, but then you also have a lot of more run-ins because you're connecting a lot more. But that's also an opportunity to be intentional on an intimacy side. So emotionally, we have the opportunity to truly connect and talk a lot and do way more connection than what we did when we was working every day and kind of looking forward to only the weekends to have that time together. So that's the emotional side of things. From a financial side of things, for us, we prepared for moments like this. And so when this happened, we knew there was an opportunity that something can happen to one of our jobs. We knew that financially the bills would go up. And exactly that's what happened. Our bills went up, but then also our gas went down. So we adjusted the budget. But for me on the other end, my job had a layoff. And so starting May 1st, I won't have a job and I won't start a new gig actually until May 18th. But because of how we handled our budget and we were intentional about that, we're able to plan ahead, and we have an emergency fund that we had in place. So the good part is we don't have to touch our emergency fund, even though I'll be without pay, because of how we budgeted previously. And so we have extra funds that are able to kind of adjust our budget for that lapse of money that keep us on pace financially. And so both from a financial standpoint and from a emotional standpoint, that pre-planning is what you have to do. That intentionality is what you have to do. The finance side took place because of the past, and so we were intentional, but we couldn't see the COVID coming, and so we had to figure out how do we engage each other, being around each other 24/7 all day, and that can be pretty difficult depending on what kind of relationship you already have.
Yeah, definitely. Good nuggets for sure. Make sure you're taking notes right now too. And kind of just going off that first question, what does the love for your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your spouse, because I know everyone on here is not married, what does the love have to do with money management?
Yeah, so that's actually is very it's intertwined, it's connected. And the reason I say that because um, in order to manage money, you have to be on one accord, right? If you're dating somebody, if you guys are living together, if you're married but you're living together, your life is intertwined already. And a lot of times people do not connect their resources with their spouse or the person that they're dating, and they kind of live with each other as roommates. But you actually don't take advantage of great opportunities you can have if you work together and manage your funds together. One of the things I said when we were offline with our teaser yesterday was that when a man leaves a woman out the equation, they cancel how God works within that relationship. And so if you want God to begin to work in that relationship and maximize your resources, it's very important that both the man and the woman kind of work together. And so what I say all that to say, without the emotional side connecting and having that oneness, it makes it difficult to be able to manage and use your resources as one, as a household.
Okay, that's cool. So now that you kind of answered my questions, I'm kind of going to let you take the driver's seat and kind of drive home the top, 2 to 3 things that you really want us to learn today before I engage you with some other questions.
Okay. So if you have your pens and your notepads ready, man, I want you to really consider this, right? Right before Jeremiah passed it on to me, the last thing I said was, whenever a woman is left out the equation, you limit or cancel God's involvement with you. And I wanted to kind of unpack that. And what I mean by that is, not sure how familiar you are with the Bible, but in Genesis, when God created everything, he created man and said it was good. What people don't really think about is that Eve wasn't present at the time, and he gave a command to man to subdue and have dominion and multiply. And so we only think of that from a childbearing position of having kids. Obviously, that wouldn't be wise to keep having kids from a financial standpoint, unless you already have a bunch of money in the bank. The average person does not. And so what's important to understand is when he created Adam and gave him that man, he saw everything and he said, it's not good for man to be alone, right? And so you have to think, okay, why couldn't Adam handle everything on his own? Why couldn't he, subdue, have dominion? But God understood it would work without a mate. So he created Eve. And what do we call the woman? The helpmate. The helpmate, meaning that they come together. And they can't help if you don't bring them along to be a part of what's going on. Right? So the man and the woman has to be able to communicate well and operate. Even when they have tension or disagreements, they have to get to the point where they're able to hear each other so they can move forward, especially from a financial standpoint.
Gotcha.
And so that's one. Whenever a woman is left out of the equation, you limit or cancel God's involvement with you. So ultimately, God cannot work through a singularity relationship, meaning that one person is focused on moving a relationship forward. The second one is this. As men, we must create an environment where our wives can flourish. As men, we must create an environment where our wives can flourish. Even if you're dating and you're out there dating or you're looking to date, you got to think about, how can I live with someone and we both reach our full potential, right? How can I live with someone and we both reach our full potential? We can't reach our full potential if we're not working together, right? So as men, we got to create that environment, right? In the beginning, I said that God created man first, right? And then he brought woman to bring along as a helpmate. The man is not in control, but God gave him headship to lead. And so ultimately, in order for him to lead, he had to create space for the woman to come alongside him, not the back, not necessarily the front, but right alongside him so they can lead together. And that takes them working together, being on the same page, and a man has to create and cultivate experience for that. So ultimately, that goes to the love side of things. A man cannot set vision for his house. A wife or a girlfriend, you guys cannot begin to plan your life together if you both are not well emotionally. Right? So a big thing that goes on in relationships today is people hold each other back, right? You can be booming by yourself. You get with somebody and what you do in your vision, your ambition went down. Same thing for the man. We see that often. But what we don't understand is if the two come together and they begin to be like-minded and they begin to stay on the same page because the man creates space to bring his spouse along, they can do twofold the amount that they can do by themselves, right? Another thing in scripture says that that what God put together, man can take apart. And then it goes on to talk about how two is better than one because one can't keep himself warm. And that's basic math, right? 1 + 1 = 2, right? 2 is greater than 1. And so it's very important to understand that if you desire to be in a marriage, be in a relationship between a man and a woman, it's very important that you understand the relationship from that standpoint, not from idealistic single person or from a standpoint that you control everything. It has to be a mutual understanding of what y'all do together. So I'll repeat my points. Point 1, as men, we must create an environment where our wives can flourish. The second thing was whenever a woman is left out of the equation, limit or even cancel God involvement with you, right? Ladies, that's not saying you don't have any order and a man has to create. No, women, there's times where you have to step up and you have to be ambitious because you may date someone or you may be married to someone who don't have that, and sometimes it's okay for you to step ahead and lead by example. But from a standpoint of marriage and longevity and a lifetime, it doesn't work for longevity, but it can work for a season. Because there's times where when I was in school, my wife was working and I wasn't, right? She led financially. She handled our resources, she handled our money, but we was cohesive, right? She understood the season was in. Now we both work, but she still make more money than I do. But we don't think about it because we have one household, right? We have one bank account, and everything flows from that. Even my personal projects that I do and her personal projects flows from that. But nothing we do does not help our marriage move forward. Everything we do is in line with our family vision. And so that's what I want guys to really think about as you think about dating. If you're married, do you have that? Are you in line with your spouse? Have you guys set a vision? Have you set a course? Do you know where you're going? Just like when you're single, you know where you're going. So if you take the gift of marriage, you have to be able to work cohesive with someone else and understand that you both have unique roles within that marriage.
Gotcha. That's real good, man. You said a couple of things. I kind of want to dig deeper in there just to maybe ask a question for somebody that might be in the crowd. But what's the advantages of having like a joint account or a separate account? What do you feel about that?
Yeah, so it's a few things that I actually encourage. When it's a married couple, I definitely encourage them to have one account together. All right. For us in my household, we do one account. We have multiple accounts, but we do one account where everything flows through it. But we're okay with having we're okay with having that's my daughter. We're okay with having a separate account for if in our budget we make room for an allowance, so that person can have their allowance, their personal funds in there. But no money goes unaccounted from us. She don't have a side hustle where she keeping her little money. I got my little thing where I'm making, I got my little money, because what they're going to create is a infidelity within your marriage from a financial standpoint, right? You guys are going to run into issues where one person may owe each other, like, man, you owe me $10, man, from last month. Man, oh, I got you on a date. Baby, can you get us on this date? How does that sound, right? that isn't a cohesive togetherness. That actually creates a breach within a marriage from a financial standpoint. Therefore, how much can you truly make? How much money can you truly make together to move your legacy of your family forward if you're not even together from a financial standpoint? And so, even if you against this and you here right now saying, nah, I'm cool off that. My wife, man, she be spending all the money up. I can't have that, man. I got to make sure that I keep control of this money. I would challenge you to put some boundaries in place and give her room to do what she want to do, or he do what he want to do within boundaries. And y'all agree upon that, right? If y'all work together and y'all come to an agreement, then you should be able to move forward. If that doesn't work, be honest with you, I challenge you to go get some counseling possibly, because there can be some communication issues that goes deeper than trying to work your finances. It goes deeper than trying to live together with another person, right? It can go deeper than that. And sometimes it goes outside your relationship. It's things that you brought inside the relationship from your past relationships or past traumas or issues, even your upbringing. So you want to consider all those things that you're thinking about trying to build a home with someone and create a family legacy.
Cool. So you said something real cool. A lot of people might not know about it, but it's a big thing for me. And I call it financially cheating on people, right? It's when you say you're going to do one thing, you agree to it, but then you might do a little bit more or do something that the other person don't know about. So if you're in a relationship, whether you're married, single, whatever the case might be, and you're just talking to somebody, how do you handle when somebody quote unquote cheat on you, but it's just with the money?
So it's funny because this happened one time in my marriage, and it was simple, but it threw me off because I get all the alerts. I get alerts. My wife can get alerts. She don't want it, so she don't like when she get notifications for everything that we do. But it's easy for me to keep up with everything if I get notified for every time our card is some money is sent. And so she went to Target, and we had a budget for what we were gonna spend to get the girls some winter clothes. And next thing you know, I get an alert from Target, way over budget. And I called my wife and I asked her, and she was like, "Yeah, it was some things I saw, and I felt like they needed it. It was a good sale though." And she explained the sale, and I was like, "Okay, but what about the budget?" So I felt some way. I'm not gonna lie. But once we talked through it, it was of need. But we talked about how it's just she could have gave me a heads up, like, "Hey, hon, I know we agreed on this, but I really got a good deal. We have room in the budget. I looked at our budget. If we move this around, move that around, that should make it work." And so what am I saying? What I'm saying is, if my wife would have gave me a heads up, that would have been helpful. Two, my wife thinking ahead for me, right? Saying, "Hey, it works. This is why it works." There's nothing I have to think about. Even if she did spend, so I'm not going to be, super cheating, like, "Why did you do that?" and make a big deal out of it. So my wife was able to do that. So even though I didn't know she was going to spend that amount, she was able to do that. And it was for our girls. But the reason you want to be on top of stuff like that, because if you don't, you get yourself constantly having that same excuse. And you'll never stay on budget. If your significant other do that all the time, you're constantly excusing it, you'll never stay on budget and you'll never get ahead financially, right? So it's all mental, right? Jeremiah got the book Mental Wealth because wealth starts with the mental. It isn't all what you do. You can go work your butt off and make tons of money and be broke, right? So it's very important to understand boundaries within the mental state of money and understand how to work together to understand what are those boundaries, and when we cross them, what do we need to do? So similar to what I learned from Jeremiah, he taught me this. When we cross the boundaries in our budget, something gets pulled back, whether that's our eat out budget, whether that's groceries, whether that's our personal allowance, something get cut back. And so we can make sure that at the end of the month, we still break even on exactly meeting our budget. And so that's what we do. We make mistakes sometimes when we're human. We may go over on groceries, and that's okay. But we also understand the rule of our house is something has to go in that month. Somebody has to take an L, something has to take an L within the budget, and it cannot be bills. But it is going to be something more so leisure, right? So that's how I would say handle fidelity within the financial standpoint of a relationship.
Man, thanks for sharing that. I want to hear a little bit from the crowd. If you guys got any questions from myself or BJ, again, I want to thank you all for attending. Does anyone have any questions for us before I get ready and end it?
What was the book you mentioned?
So the book is called Mental Wealth.
Jeremiah.
Hey, how are you doing, Brandy?
About mental wealth.
Hey.
Hey, but yeah, the book is titled Mental Wealth. It comes out in July. You can pre-order it right now at jeremiahreed.com. And I'll be sending an email out, and BJ has a gift for everyone too who attended. And I'll be giving you the link to order the book along with the free gift from BJ as well.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Any other questions? See some singles. I see some married people out there in the crowd.
Singles, y'all got any questions? I know one of y'all seems to have questions, even if you're not dating anybody.
I got a question.
We got a question. What's up,
Yes.
Anton?
How he was talking about like having a joint account, how everything goes in that one account. Okay, I ain't, just an example. Say I'm not doing that. How do you, since you're not used to that, how do you start like something to start you? Because everybody's not just comfortable with just, okay, I'm just gonna start throwing all my money in this one account. What what do you guys say like a starting point? Start doing that instead of to work it.
Okay. Well, so the first thing I would say is you and your wife have to come up, or your significant other has to come up with a game plan, right? Don't just run and get an account. You haven't discussed anything. You haven't talked about boundaries. You haven't talked about what it's going to look like. The new normal is going to look like. We don't want to be like a COVID-19 experience that come out of nowhere, right? That's never good for anybody when you get caught off guard. And so what you're going to need to do is sit down and start to discuss it and cast vision about why do you want this and why it's going to be helpful, and what it's going to do for us. It got to make sense for you, right? It makes sense for me. I encourage it with anybody that I may counsel or coach, but I know people who don't do it and it works for them. So it's not that you have to. I encourage it because it just keeps everything in line. You can see everything. But if you got each other passwords and everybody looking at their account, you can do it that way. But I would say just do your bills. Your bills, because at that point in the day, it's not hurting anybody because the money has to go to the bills anyway. Start that bank account with just that. And then you kind of separate into kind of bringing everything that flows through there. And now your other accounts are simply used for money that you may get within a budget for your allowance versus my paycheck goes to this account, my paycheck goes to that account. So instead of doing that right away, just when you get your paychecks, you have a bank account where you put all y'all bill money, how y'all choose to split bills up. We don't split bills up, and that's what makes it easy for us. We don't have to be like, hey man, you got that 200 babe for that light bill. We don't have to, me and my wife have to do that because we have one account and we look at every penny that goes into our account as our lump sum of money versus his paycheck versus her paycheck. Jeremiah?
Yeah, and Anton too. We can one off after this is over with. I would love to sit down with you and your wife and come up with a game plan and cast that vision for you. I can walk with you along that process.
Yep.
Also, too, we got another question. It says, how early is too early to discuss your financial situation in the dating stage? And how did you two have these conversations when you were dating? For me, I made this mistake. So I didn't really have the financial conversation in the dating stage. And I got burnt from it once I got married. It was a big hindrance for me. And I had to learn in the first year of marriage how to handle different situations, joint accounts, loaning family money, things like that. But I believe once you know that you're serious about this person and this person is serious with you, meaning that you honestly see yourself moving forward with this person, this is when you need to have that discussion about, hey, how do you feel about investing? Are you currently in debt? Do you loan your parents money? How would you feel if I loan my parents money? Do you loan your friends money? All these different kind of questions need to surface, and you need to be honest with yourself, or your person needs to, kind of be honest with you as well, just so you can discuss and put everything on the table. If you don't put everything on the table, it will come back and haunt you. And that's the biggest advice that I got coming from that. BJ, feel free to chime in on that question.
Yeah, my story was a little bit different. Leslie and I talked a lot about finances. We actually learned finance together, how to steward and do it really well. We had a very similar background as far as we had high taste, but we was frugal. And so that made it a little bit easier to begin that conversation. So that's how we started. And we actually got a bank account together where we saved money together when we were dating. But I was courting her. And what that means is I let her know. I set vision, I set direction. Hey, this is where we're going. I'm going to pursue marrying you. That's the next stage of our relationship. She didn't know when that was. And so from that point, there was trust there. And that was a verbal commitment there that I made. And we invested in each other by having that account together. It was both a joint account, but we had our own money, own separate accounts. We didn't mix anything together at that point. It was more so where we saved. And so when it was time for the wedding, we had some little money saved up. And that was helpful because we actually need that money, and it helped pay for a lot of things as it relates to our marriage, our honeymoon. And so we didn't know what things was going to be like. We just took that step. I'm not saying do that. You got to be sure that that's the person. I was sure. That's why I made that verbal commitment. And a year later, I proposed to her. A year after that, we got married. And so there wasn't some person I just was dating and I'm like, hey, let's do this together. So that was a whole discussion that we had beforehand.
Cool. We got another question too. It says, I have seen a couple who have had separate accounts, but they have check-ins to ensure they are staying on course with their budget. But my question is, how would you deal with the person who is totally against having one account? So I personally have coached someone like this, and similar to what he said earlier, it's a lot of trust issues, things that might been brought into a relationship outside of money, and that what kind of went into this type of situation. But if the person does not want a joint account, but they have complete transparency with their other account, you can make it work. Now, if the person does not want to be transparent with the separate account, neither they don't want one account, you have a real problem, an issue, and trust is a big thing that's going to come up in that relationship. So you can make it work if you got full transparency with another outside account, but it's very important that that transparency is there. So you need to have the password. You need to be able to log in. You need to be able to withdraw money, transfer money, and do all of those things with that separate account. If you can't do that, then you got a bigger problem, and it's not money. BJ, you got anything?
I agree with you, Jeremiah. It's and that's why I encourage single account, man. It can be really, it's a sticky situation. I'm really big on not giving Satan a foothold. He already don't like marriage anyway, because it's a representation of Christ in the church. And so I'm big on saying, hey, how do we get rid of anything that can cause a breach within our marriage? Right? It's already difficult enough for two people to try to get to know each other and become one. So let alone creating all these avenues where mistakes can happen, situations can go bad. And so it's just easier to have one account. And it's harder, it's easier to manage that way too. It's much easier to manage when you both have one account than having joint accounts. So, I mean, not joint accounts, but separate accounts.
Cool. I had something else come through. I might not have anything to do with their trust issue, but it is a trust issue. You must figure it out. That is true. I agree with that. They might not necessarily have a trust issue with you, but it could be a general trust issue.
Yep. And we talked about that.
Yeah.
Right. Your past is very important. So a lot of what I do in my coaching is, again, it goes back to Jeremiah's book. That's why I highly encourage it. The mental. A lot of what I do with my coaching is target the mental state of kind of your upbringing. I start with your past. I start with how was your parents? Were they married? Were they divorced? Were they did they never get married? Was your daddy a player? Was your mom out here? You know what I mean? Like all those different things are very important to talk about because it all makes up who you are. Regardless if you understand, you can hate your mama, but a lot of who she is or he is, your father, you will take on some of that. So it's very important to begin to unpack those things in a dating stage before you get married, before you get engaged. And that's what I love to do, walk with couples. And that's why I definitely encourage mental wealth, because it's a beginning stage to begin to unpack those things from a mental standpoint, because if you can't get past the mental, you will never be able to be wealthy. And I'm not talking about just financial wealth. I'm talking about setting a legacy and setting vision for your family that's countercultural than what everybody else does.
Yeah. So we got one more question. This would be the last question. It says, when you share account, how do you handle surprises for your spouse without financially cheating? So now call me an over planner, but my wife knows that she has X amount of money, whether it's 200, 500, where she can just go out and do whatever she wants if she wants to do a surprise. But she has room to operate in that. She also too, we got the allowance thing as well. So she can say, hey, I need some extra money for my allowance. If we got it, it's not a big deal. I give it to her. But that's something we kind of do just to create margin of space for surprises and having fun as well. But we just got to make sure everything is accounted for. That's what it's all about. Um, what if you have a career and are in a good financial place, but your partner is making significantly less and bringing on a lot of debt? Is it wrong to keep two separate accounts and work together until that person finds a better financial position? I'm glad you asked that question. We got a minute 17. I'm going to do my best to answer this as quick as possible. If I don't answer it correctly or suffice, I'll hit you up afterwards. But you got to accept them where they are. So if they bringing in $60,000 worth of debt, but you love them, that means you love the $60,000 worth of debt as well. And what you do is you still continue to plan. You let him cast a vision. If it's a dude, if you're the one that's in good and your girl is bad, you do the same thing. You work together. You assume a plan on how to help that person because you're one. You can't go into it thinking that you're separate if this is the one that you're going to marry or the one you're going to spend the rest of your life with. So it's very important to do that. So I'm going to close out with a quick prayer. Just want to thank you all once again for joining in. BJ has a gift for you as well. And for those who don't believe in God and you want to get off, I completely understand. Feel free to log off now. Dear Lord, we just come to you today. Father, we want to thank you for this opportunity as we discuss love and money. Father, you've been so gracious to us. I just ask, Lord, that you begin to give us wisdom and give us direction on how to lead in these two areas. Lord, I ask